In 2012, Steven Spielberg released his long-awaited biopic Lincoln. The screenplay was written by two-time Tony winner Tony Kushner. It took him 6 years to write it, and by Jove, it shows. I'm not exaggerating the slightest when I say that this script, a mere blueprint for a picture, is comparable to any great immortal epic novel or historical drama. It's a literary work that's complex, rich, ornate, and worthy of a full semester course. Sadly, I do not have that much time on me right now, so allow me to attempt in these few minutes to explain how and why this screenplay is such an artistic achievement.
It is highly unusual, sir.
This isn't usual, Mr. Pendleton. This is history.
In the early days of 1865, it's become clear that the Confederates will lose the Civil War at any moment. The president realizes it's his last chance to pass the 13th Amendment, which will end slavery in the United States. He needs to pass it through Congress before the war is over, otherwise when Southern congressmen return to their seats, they will make it impossible to get a majority vote. It's a timely legal loophole. To make sure he will get enough votes, he needs radical Republican Thaddeus Stevens to appear just a tad less radical so as not to scare off potential allies. And to make sure every single Republican will be on his side, he makes a deal with conservative Preston Blair, who, in exchange for his support, gets permission to start peace negotiations with the South. Lincoln also has his Secretary of State, Seward, hire a trio of lobbyists to bribe wavering Democrats with government positions to gain their votes. The personal heads straight against the political when Lincoln's firstborn insists on enlisting, to the despair of Mary Lincoln, who, having recently lost a son, will go mad, I do mean mad, if she loses another. The clock quickens.
The greatest measure of the 19th century passed by corruption, aided and abetted by the purest man in America.
The elaborate storyline has over 80 speaking roles, over 80 characters with names. These go over every walk of life, from generals to former slaves, from statesmen to commoners. And yes, there's a famous face for practically every part. In part because everyone wants to work with Spielberg. In part because every part is memorable, with personality and bite. Because what elevates Kushner's screenplay into a masterpiece of literature is its flawless, timeless use of language. Characters communicate with intricacy, mastery, and depth.
Radical Republican autocrat! Ruling by fiat and martial law!
Doris Kearns Goodwin, writer of the source material, said that the 19th century was an age when the command of the spoken word was central to political success. When thousands of people stood riveted for 3 or 4 hours while political opponents debated in the open air. When audiences felt free to interject comments, cheer for their champion, bemoan the jabs of the opponent. It's a tall order for any writer to convincingly people such a world, but Kushner isn't any writer.
My trust in him is marrow deep.
He shapes speech into endlessly watchable verbal action.
It's not illegal to bribe congressmen, they starve otherwise.
Characters color terms with qualifiers.
Get him to proclaim what we all know he believes in his cold-colored heart.
They heed the sound of their words.
I rise on this sad and solemn day.
They build parallel constructions.
How difficult it must be for you to know that. And yet how important to remember it.
They use metaphors.
Don't just reach for the highest branches. They sway in every breeze.
They constantly consider hypotheticals.
Will you rejoice? When the southern states have rejoined the Union pell-mell, as Lincoln intends them to, and one by one, each refuses to ratify the amendment, if we pass it, which we won't.
It's a brilliant barrage of grammar, logic, and rhetoric, as great books are, without ever sacrificing characterization. Let's take the case of the title character.
I wish he'd chosen an instrument for his purpose more wieldy than the House of Representatives.
Abraham Lincoln is widely regarded not only as a great politician, but a great writer of his own.
And until every drop of blood drawn with the lash shall be paid by another drawn with the sword.
Extensively influenced by Shakespeare and the King James Bible, his speeches are studied to this day for their rhetorical skill.
7 years ago, our fathers brought forth from this continent a new nation conceived in liberty to be dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
That's good, thank you.
And as unbelievable as it sounds, the character as written lives up to that.
We have heard the chimes of midnight, Master Shallow.
Here he directly quotes Shakespeare before putting on a biblical lexicon.
I'm here to alert you boys that the great day of reckoning is nigh upon us.
He frequently uses polysyndeton, a Bible favorite figure of speech of repeating conjunctions like and in succession.
Howling at shadows and furniture and ghosts! And you grousel and heckle and dodge about.
He was choking her, and she grabbed a hold of a stick of firewood and fractured his skull, and he died.
It gives rhythm and completeness and importance.
And for his widow and his orphan.
Even when he is to the point, he retains that poetic streak.
I am the President of the United States of America, clothed in immense power.
This is a factual line, plainly phrased.
I am the President of the United States of America.
But he describes power not as an executive thing, but as a physical garment. He doesn't say granted, endowed, possessing. He says clothed, as something you wear.
Clothed in immense power.
Even in his anger, he is metaphorical. Here's how he requests his Secretary of War to speak.
Thunder forth, god of war.
And his Secretary of the Navy.
Old Neptune, shake thy hoary locks.
Exposition-wise, you can infer the profession of each character, and through classical references, the scene is elevated. Lincoln treats his cabinet as Mount Olympus. Great Western literature has a long-standing tradition of referencing classical antiquity. But he isn't always on an elevated level.
Well, it ain't one yet.
He makes it a point to adapt his vocabulary and style to everyone he talks to, because he's a damn fine politician.
Perhaps you'll hire me.
Perhaps I will.
No matter who he's with, he makes himself one of them.
What's your name?
Kevin.
Tell me your name to go past. I'd like to know who I'm talking to, Kevin.
President John.
John. I've seen you before.
It's a big reason why he's so beloved.
How the people love my husband.
When he tells a vulgar story, he begins with noble words.
He was grateful to be directed thence.
Latinate polysyllables,
Beverages imbibed.
which give extra force to the crass Saxon finish.
The whole world knows nothing to make an Englishman shit quicker than the sight of George Washington.
He has fun playing around with words and bending them to his will, no matter their typical grammatical rows.
Why, for instance, is this thus? And what is the reason for this thusness?
There's also the good old-fashioned pun.
I've found that prophesying is one of life's less profitable occupations.
Lincoln does a remarkable monologue where he goes over several wartime actions he took and how they contradict each other.
But if I'm a respecter of state's laws, how then can I legally free him with my proclamation as I done? Unless I'm canceling state's laws.
It's a scene of a skillful lawyer thoroughly dismantling his opponent's flimsy line of reasoning. But his opponent happens to be himself.
Then Negroes in those states are slaves, hence property, hence my war powers allow me to...
It's clear he looks at all things the way a logician does, as propositions.
It is a self-evident truth that things which are equal to the same thing are equal to each other.
And he's fully aware the conclusions he drew from premises made no sense at all. Such as 1. Enemy property can be seized during wartime. 2. Slaves are not property. Conclusion: he can seize his enemy's slaves? Also, 1. You can only seize property from countries. 2. The Confederacy is not a country. Conclusion: he can seize the Confederacy's property?
So, if in fact the Negroes are property according to law, have I the right to take the rebels' property from them if I insist they're rebels only and not citizens of a belligerent country?
This is a fully logical man, a master of reasoning and logical thinking.
That's a rule of mathematical reasoning. It's true because it works.
But as he does with words, he bends logic to his aims, to get things done.
Do not speak to me of rules. This is war. This is not a game of cricket.
Because the major trait of Kushner's Lincoln is this.
Now!
He commits himself to one problem at a time.
See what is before you. See the here and now. That's the hardest thing. The only thing that accounts.
He is aware of the problems of the future, but, unlike others, he doesn't let them stop him from taking action now.
We'll have to extemporize and experiment with what it is, when it is.
When the problems of tomorrow come, he will solve them tomorrow. He won't sit in indecision today trying to come up with a bulletproof perfect plan that will cause no consequences, because it doesn't exist.
There's none before us now. What's before us now? That's the vote on the 13th Amendment.
It's almost like he knows he won't be there anyway. Too soon? Now let's compare him to Secretary of State William Seward.
Oh, Splendid.
He's Lincoln's strategic opposite, as in, he's eternally worrying ahead.
Consider the obstacles that we'd face.
He's always hypothesizing about the future, fearing incoming calamity.
Even if every Republican in the House votes yes. Far from guaranteed, since when has our party unanimously supported anything?
He expects nothing but the worst.
We'll lose.
He's also a bit of a snob. While Lincoln gets along fine with rowdy Bilbo,
Well, I'll be fucked.
I wouldn't bet against it.
Seward doesn't much try to hide his contempt.
Kind that hates
Thank you for that pithy explanation, Mr. Bilbo.
He presents himself as neutral and fair, but he stealthily loads his language with his opinions.
The same gang of talentless hicks and hacks who rejected the amendment 10 months ago.
Every information arrives with his assessment.
And supply the skulky men gifted at this kind of shady work.
Skulking, shady, talentless. It turns exposition into personality.
Why wasn't I consulted? I'm Secretary of State.
He and Lincoln have an argument, and their differing worldviews are made crystal clear.
We'll lose every Democrat we've got.
Seward is already lamenting catastrophes that haven't even happened.
More than likely, conservative Republicans will join him, and all our work, all our preparing the ground for the vote laid waste for naught.
And Lincoln's approach is closer to Butch Cassidy's.
Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you.
Just survive the jump, then you worry about the drowning. He does so by quoting his beloved bard.
If you can look into the seeds of time and say which grain will grow and which will not, speak then to me.
A disaster.
For now, he just wants the votes. We'll worry about the storm when it arrives.
Get me 13 votes.
Here we have Lincoln the pragmatist, Seward the cautious.
Actually, I have no idea what you mean by that.
Let's now take a look at Thaddeus Stevens, the belligerent.
Fatuous nincompoop.
Lincoln changes his persona to fit whichever group he's with. Now Stevens. He always keeps his language high and mighty to appear morally, intellectually, linguistically superior.
You were ignominiously trounced.
He revels in his superiority, and Tommy Lee Jones appropriately revels in his delivery.
I'm sorry, I was under the misapprehension your chosen profession was politics.
Even when he needs to buy a vote, he does so by humiliating his mark, by making fun of his name, and barraging him with sadistic rhetorical questions.
You are can-free.
Cuffruff.
Never mind, cough's not. The governor of our state is a Democrat? As in, Congress is controlled by what party? Yours?
And it works.
This is a rhetorical exercise.
Take this beautiful periodic sentence.
Yet even you, Pendleton, who should have been gibbeted for treason long before today, even worthless, unworthy you, ought to be treated equally before the law.
Notice how he prolongs his sentence by adding more and more insults to Pendleton before finally getting to his point. Yet even you, then an invective relative clause. At this point, the subject, you, is distant from the predicate, ought to be treated equally before the law. So he repeats it to make the syntax clearer, but since that new you still refers to Pendleton, and he can't refer to Pendleton without a bit of vitriol, he delays the repeated pronoun with more abuse, using words with the same root, by the way. Only then does he finish his sentence. It's his noble and just view of the world, decked with quarrelsome poetry.
Even worthless, unworthy you ought to be treated equally before the law.
Stevens, who dedicated his life to opposing slavery, sees it as an affront to natural law.
Slavery is the only insult to natural law.
And fittingly, he has a habit of making metaphors related to the natural world.
You are more reptile than man, George. So low and flat that the foot of man is incapable of crushing you.
Anatomy.
With cold, pallid slime in their veins instead of hot red blood.
Animals.
The modern travesty of Thomas Jefferson's political organization, to which you have attached yourself like a barnacle, has the effrontery to call itself
nature.
Some of us breathe oxygen, and we find the mephitic fumes of his oratory a lethal challenge to our pulmonary capability.
Pulmonary, blood, veins, reptile, barnacle, oxygen, carcass, fumes. He even qualifies his metaphors with visual, smelling, touchable modifiers that give them vivid life.
When here before me stands, stinking, the moral carcass of the gentleman from Ohio.
You can experience the world he builds in your mind with words. In a moment of particularly irresistible wit, he's confronted by Congressman Fernando Wood and attacks him by hitting him with his own name, assigning him the defects of Wood itself, which, needless to say, is a thing of nature.
The true purpose of the amendment, Mr. Wood, You perfectly named, brainless, obstructive object.
That's some Shakespearean wit. Brief pause to say that, in case you're learning something, I'll ask you to kindly consider joining my Patreon. Your support will be the absolute best way to keep such videos going, and you'll get early access to all videos and answers to all your questions and exclusive material, like my video on the direction of Spielberg's Munich. Liking and subscribing are also most welcome. Moving on. In Thaddeus Stevens' only dialogue with Lincoln, their contrary political views are dramatized. Stevens wants paradise on earth for former slaves.
We'll use their confiscated wealth to establish hundreds of thousands of free Negro farmers.
Lincoln just wants some damn votes. To get them, he'll need Stevens to moderate his views until the amendment passes.
Temper your contributions so as not to frighten our conservative friends.
Seward would have walked out of the room fuming it's impossible to reason with this man and will never succeed. Abe patiently hears his stance and simply says they'll butt heads later. Now's not the time for that.
We shall oppose one another in the course of time. Now we're working together and I'm asking you.
For patience, I expect.
Stevens even makes an extremely Lincolnian construction here.
We'll build up a land down there of free men and free women and free children and freedom.
He uses Lincoln's adored polysyndeton, as well as polyptoton, merism, and anaphora. But don't let's get too technical. He mixes metaphors by talking about a moral compass which has been ossified, an anatomical term, into uselessness.
We know that the inner compass that should direct the soul toward justice has ossified in white men and women, north and south, unto utter uselessness.
Lincoln takes his compass metaphor as his own and extends it into being about a literal compass.
A compass I learned when I was surveying. It'll point you true north from where you're standing.
A metaphor that includes physical locations.
But it's got no advice about the swamps, deserts, and chasms that you'll encounter along the way.
All part, of course, of Stevens' beloved natural world. Interestingly, Lincoln has the exact same thing done to him by his own wife. He uses a metaphor to say he shouldn't get directly involved with the amendment lobby.
Seward doesn't want me leaving big muddy footprints all over town.
She takes his metaphor and twists it to her will.
No one has ever lived who knows better than you the proper placement of footfalls on treacherous paths.
Then, also like hubby, her language goes immediately biblical.
Because if you fail to acquire the necessary votes, woe unto you, sir, you will answer to me.
Over 20 years of marriage would do that to you. As much as I'd love to extend this into the Lincoln lectures, let this acceptance take.
As the preacher said, I could write shorter sermons, but once I start, I get too lazy to stop.
How many screenplays can you name that would survive this level of scrutiny? This is the type of close reading one saves for the writings of Shakespeare, Milton, Pope, Melville, and Lincoln himself. But here it stands on screen, shaming the putrid masses which idle in inadequacy. I mean, this shit rocks. Thank you for watching.